Let me just start off by saying that if you're a collector and the name Todd McFarlane doesn't just give you an absolute hard on, then I don't know what to say to you. I mean, hearing his name is like the equivalent of taking two Viagra's, like your heart should be exploding at this exact moment. Honestly though, I did drink a ton of water right before doing the voiceover for this video, just because I realized I'm going to be spending an insane amount of saliva. I really feel bad for my microphone, and I hope someday they're able to invent like some sort of microphone condom. That way I can wrap my microphone, and that way it's not being completely violated by all the saliva that I'm throwing at it. Anyways, all jokes aside, it is a very, very McFarlane heavy video, and honestly, specifically only for McFarlane, because I like to separate my videos. But in today's video, we're going to get into a ton of reveals, a ton of pre-orders that went up. I'm going to give you guys my personal thoughts and opinions on some of the reveals, and I should reiterate, these are just my personal opinion, my personal take. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I should reiterate this as well. I'm going to try to dissect the figure as much as I possibly can, but I'm not going to go through the entire catalog and try to remember if every single accessory or every single body mold has been reused. Okay, I'm just going off of my personal memory. So let's get straight into it, because saliva will be spilled and we don't want to spill it just ranting about nonsense. So the first figure that I wanted to talk about here is not necessarily the one that I'm the most excited about, but I feel like it's the one that is the most intriguing to me for a number of different reasons. But we're talking about Sergeant Rock. This figure will come with 6 hands total, a removable helmet, a knife, a pack, and then a small little shovel. Now, taking a closer look at the legs, it looks like that's 100% reuse. I think they're just repainted. We've seen these legs before. I believe the one that sticks out the most to me is that Metal's Batman, the one that had like all the weapons attached to him. That's probably the one that sticks out the most, but I believe I've seen these legs quite a few times from the DC multiverse. The arms, I believe they were used for that Zaz figure. Obviously, what looks to be new is that head sculpt and then that torso, which I could be wrong, but I don't remember seeing that like chest piece. What's really interesting about this entire line, and I've said this before and I'll continue saying it, I really dislike the fact that McFarlane is making the collectors pay extra for new body molds or new characters that have never been introduced into the DC multiverse line, and he does it with the collector's edition line. We've seen this just recently with Boomerang and Penguin, who were two characters that people, or two villains that would fit in perfectly with a lot of displays, but unfortunately he decided to hike that price up all the way to $29.99, especially with Penguin, who really didn't come with a whole lot of extra accessories, but just because it was a brand new body mold, a brand new character, McFarlane decided to hike up the price just a bit. Regardless, the figure has gone up for pre-order. It is selling for $29.99, and it is widely available at whatever retailer you usually pick up your DC multiverse action figures from, and last time I checked, he was still widely available. And on a side note, the Platinum Edition will be the exact same figure, just in all green plastic. We are also getting a Connor Kent from the Teen Titans, and this is a really interesting figure because contrary to the previous figure that we were talking about, Sergeant Rock, this figure, at least from what I can tell, the entire body mold is just 100% reuse. Maybe the arms are a little bit different, but I think I'm almost certain that the entire body we've seen before. I think the only real added bonuses that you're getting, considering it is from the DC Collector's Edition line, is that ground attack piece effect, which looks phenomenal. I'm 100% for this. It will come with 4 hands total, as well as 3 different head sculpts. There will be the normal Besties head sculpt, the Who Drank All My Mountain Dew head sculpt, and then the one that is actually using his laser beam eyes. As I said, there's some value there. I'm not sure if it's necessarily reaching that $29.99 collector's edition price point, but it's a matter of perspective. If this is a figure that you've been waiting for quite some time, this is the perfect opportunity. It has gone up for pre-order, as I mentioned with the previous figure. it is definitely still available as of the moment of this recording. So definitely go in there, submit your pre-orders, or you can always wait to find it in store. I think it will be pretty readily available. The Platinum Edition will just come with a different color scheme all around, and it looks like it has some sort of like damage on the chest of Connor Kent. The third figure that actually went up for pre-order in that little wave was the Batman from the Bat manga. The figure will come with 6 hands total, a bat camera, a grappling hook, and an oversized batarang. It will also come with a go-go magic wand. I'm not 100% sure what that's supposed to be, but it does come with a plethora of different cool accessories, and I appreciate that, especially coming from the collector's edition line. I think these figures need to have more and more value as time goes by, especially if you're still reusing a lot of the body molds, which this particular Batman still is. If I'm not mistaken, this is still using that Nightfall body mold. And just keep in mind, this particular Batman has a very strong cult following here in the States, but overseas it was really popular. Obviously, it was introduced in Japan first, so this may be the only figure from this particular wave that I could easily see being somewhat difficult to acquire. Overall, this entire wave, at least in my personal opinion, is very underwhelming. There's a ton of reuse when it comes down to the body mold. There's really nothing that interesting or mind-blowing. The only real thing that I feel like you're definitely getting your money's worth has to be with the accessories. We are getting some new ones that I've never seen before done from McFarlane, so definitely don't forget to submit your pre-order. Now, if you guys thought that that's all that we had for today's video, then you are sorely mistaken. We have a crazy amount of announcements, and that was just the tip of the iceberg. We also got some announcements through the Target Summer Geek Out. Now, from my understanding, not all of these figures will be exclusive to Target, but they were available first through them. The first couple of figures that I wanted to talk about is this Punchline and Joker 2-pack, essentially just reissues for people that may have missed out the first time around. This is supposed to include some sort of autograph from McFarlane. I'm not really going to get too deep into it. As I said, it's basically just the same exact figures with a couple of accessories. What's interesting about this, and I mentioned this when I first talked about Punchline, and this was actually a figure that we had in our most wanted top 10 before the figure actually got released. This was a character that I had a lot of interest in because I do like the first appearance of her in comic book form and things of that nature. She's a great comic book character, and what's fascinating about McFarlane, and I think more so than with any other OM, he's giving us modern day comic book characters in action figure form. It's important to really capitalize on the success of really good comic book runs, because a lot of the collectors are waiting for that. They're reading comic books and they're really interested in having these in hand. So it's a really nice touch from McFarlane. Now, whether these needed to be re-released, honestly, is a matter of personal perspective. I personally feel like it's overkill. He should have waited a little bit longer until maybe they were a little bit scarcer at retail. But regardless, if you guys are interested, it's out there. They also announced that the Rookie and Mr. Bloom 2-pack was also going to be going up, and this figure, in case you guys are wondering, this 2-pack, a lot of people were wondering what the price point was going to be. It's kind of a hefty price point. You're looking at about $69.99. I guess it depends on where you're picking it up from, but that's the retail price that I personally saw from a couple of different retailers. And again, if you're interested in modern day comic books, this is right up your alley. For me personally, I'm not really too invested in it, but there are quite a few people. Like I said, McFarlane is doing a great job. There's some new characters or some new storylines that are being announced, and he's quickly turning around and making action figures, which, as I said, something pretty rare from OMs, and we see it again. There is an extra head sculpt. You can either get the Gordon unmasked head sculpt or the regular one. I personally really love that armor for that bat suit that Gordon is wearing, so hopefully they decide to re-release it in some way or some capacity. But it's one of those 2-packs, like I said, if you're heavily invested in modern day comic books, this is definitely right up your alley. They also announced a new Metallo action figure, and this is definitely not my prototypical version of Metallo, so there may be some people out there that really wanted this, but just me personally, it's not something that really resonates. It's not the look that I prefer, but it's out there. It's kind of a more classic design. There is a bunch of reuse. If I'm not mistaken, this is the Lex Luthor power suit armor, so there's a bunch of reuse, and it's one of those things, like the moment that you see it, it's really hard to get away from it, especially because this is a Superman villain, and so you're going to be potentially displaying it next to those power suits, so it's going to be too similar. You can definitely see like there's just different plastic. I'm not sure if it's painted on, but if it's just the same sculpt with a different paint tone, it's definitely going to stand out, and not in a very good way. It's something that I think McFarlane made a little bit of a mistake on. I think he should have tweaked it enough to where you couldn't really see it. Or added like a wash or something to really bring down the details a little bit more, but instead it just looks like the same exact suit but with a different head sculpt, and then using different colored plastic. That's essentially what it is. It comes with an extra little kryptonite piece, which is a really cool accessory. I like it. It's something that you can use, like I said, with multiple different Superman villains. We've already received a Lex Luthor, a Doomsday. You could even have Batman himself holding the kryptonite if you wanted to make like a Batman versus Superman comic book display. The options are endless, and it's just a really nice touch from McFarlane to give us accessories that are somewhat universal, especially considering if you have to go through the third-party marketplace. An accessory like that could be pretty expensive, but he decides to throw it in with an action figure like that. I think it's a really cool, nice touch from McFarlane. If you don't feel your bank account or your wallet getting lighter, we still have 2 more reveals from McFarlane. As I said, this is an absolute takeover for him. He did announce that he was going to re-release that animated Batmobile. Now, I personally do not own the original, but there is a mention of some batteries in here, which makes me believe that this particular Batmobile will have some sort of light up features. Not only that, it will be able to seat 2 of those 6-inch animated Batman action figures. So in case you missed it the first time around, McFarlane is giving you yet one more opportunity, because if I'm not mistaken, that Batmobile had gone up in price. I think I might have seen it for $200. I could be wrong, don't quote me on that, but I'm just going off of like recent mental memory, which I'm not very good at, but I think it did go up quite a bit in the third party. And so McFarlane, again, just giving people another opportunity. The last figure that I wanted to talk about was that DC Multiverse Fire action figure, and it's another one that I'm a little bit torn about. I've seen comments online, I've seen people rambling about this figure. It appears they're using that Catwoman body mold, and they're reusing it and porting it into this character, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. I'll be honest, it looks kind of like she's wearing clothing. I'm not sure which would be better, but it just seems a little bit weird and awkward, especially if you're used to seeing her in comic book pages. So I did see the community kind of lose their cool about this figure. Like I said, I'm a little bit torn. It's not really a mainstay in the DC comic book universe, and I've only seen her here and there in some comic book runs. So personally, I really have no attachment. It's a cool figure, really cool translucent green plastic, and you can see the inner workings of it and whatnot. There are people out there that just love that type of stuff. They'll literally jizz at the idea of translucent plastic. I would have loved to see a better head sculpt, but it's there if you guys are interested. I do feel like might be one of those figures that maybe goes on sale or clearance. I don't see like a huge fan base for this particular figure, which might be one of the reasons why why McFarlane decided to throw this into like a Target collector's event, but only time will tell. I just don't really have a very strong feeling that this figure is going to sell out. And I decided to throw in this little bit of news because I don't usually cover Diamond Select action figures. It's a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but there is a 2-pack that is an Entertainment Earth exclusive with Invincible and Omni-Man. This is supposed to be based, I'm assuming, on that big epic battle that they had with each other where Omni-Man essentially wrecks Invincible. They are essentially the exact same figures. They just have that blood splatter painted on them. So if that's something that you're interested in, or if you missed out on the originals, and honestly, if you did miss out on the originals, this is probably a better opportunity to pick them up. They're going for $49.99, which obviously equals to about $25 each figure, and you get that extra beautiful paint. I think they'll display better than the original ones, but like I said, if you already have the originals, there's really no need to pick this up. I just threw it in to today's video because I don't ever see myself going around and talking about Diamond Select. Not that I don't really appreciate Diamond Select. I have picked up a number of different great figures from them, but I just don't cover them as consistently. So there you guys have it. I just wanted to rant about how McFarlane just bombarded us with an insane amount of releases. There's a lot of good stuff, some definitely not as exciting, but there's a little bit for everybody. So as always, let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Stay safe out there, continue to enjoy the hobby, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you.